Hi everyone, it's Laura and I hope you're all doing really well. Today I'm going to be talking through my reading plans for the next 3 months. So I like to do to be read or TBR videos once a quarter, if you like, to give me a bit of structure in what I want to read, but also not hold me too tightly because I don't really like doing monthly plans, just in case my plans change. I like to be a bit more loosey-goosey. And also, I find TBR videos a little bit weird because I'm sort of talking about books like this book is about such and such, but I don't actually know because I've not read it yet. So it's a bit difficult for me to, I don't know, recommend or explain a book to you when I haven't actually read it myself. I've only got the blurb to go on, but it gives a bit of idea of what's going to be coming up in my videos in the next few weeks. And I always like to hear from you which one you'd like me to read first. Like, is there anything in this list that you particularly want to hear about? So that will be useful as well. So the first books I've got to show you here is a group of 3. So I've started a Patreon this year, which I thought would be quite fun, which is somewhere where you can tip creators, but also somewhere where you can build a bit of a community. And I have a tier in there where we're going to be doing a quarterly book club, and the choice will be yours, what books we're going to read. So I have chosen 3 fantasy books, which are going to be the choice for my first Patreon book club. And they are The Daughter of the Forest, #1 by Juliette Marillier, which is a very old book, which I think I read when I was like about 14 or 15. And Jean has very kindly lent me this book because she read it more recently and loved it. And I can't remember this at all, but it's the beginning of The Daughters of the Forest? No, that's the name of the actual book. It's the beginning of, it doesn't say, The Seven Waters trilogy. There's a trilogy here. I think there's more books than that that Jean has been reading. Anyway, it's the beginning of a series, and it takes the myth of the woman whose brothers are turned to swans. So I think she's got 6 brothers and they all get turned to swans, and she has to sew shirts for them out of nettles or something in order to turn them back into humans. So this, I think, would be really fun. I've been loving reading the Juliette Marillier books, like in general, the more recent ones. So it'd be good to go back to my roots, a good beginning for the book club. So I've got this as an option. The next option is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, which I believe is a sort of pretend journal of like a Victorian scientist who is actually researching dragons, and in this universe they're kind of real creatures. And I don't know too much about it other than that, obviously, because I've not read it yet, but I feel like there's been I've got quite mixed different opinions on this. Some people have absolutely loved it, and I think others maybe thought it was going to be a little bit more fantastical and it's a bit more scientific, but very intrigued by this one. And the third option for the book club is going to be The Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb. Now, this is, again, the beginning of a series, and I don't think you have to have read any of Robin Hobb's previous series in order to read this one. And I did read the first book in Robin Hobb's Assassins series, like The Assassin's Apprentice, and I thought it was fine. I didn't love it, but then I have heard from like multiple sources that the first 2 series or something in this world aren't that good, and you have to keep reading the books until you get to this series, which is the Rain Wild Chronicles. And I just feel like I don't care. If the first couple of series of books are rubbish, then I'll just skip them and go on to a good series. That's how I look at it. I don't know how anyone else would look at it if they fancy diving into this series, if they've not read any Robin Hobb before. But this one's about dragons, and I've heard really good things about this series. Let's see what it says in the blurb. Okay, the blurb's a little bit confusing, but it sounds like there's a new hatching of dragons, and there's different people who live in this world who are interested in these new creatures that have come across. So that's going to be the choice for January to March in the Patreon book club if you would like to join in. Then the rest of the books that I have here are really eclectic. I was doing a bit of a strategy where I was trying to read a book from each bookshelf in my house to get through some of the books that I've bought before that are really pretty, and I put them on my shelf, but then I don't read them. However, I've basically got through all of the books on my shelves now, and in hindsight, I'm not sure if that was a great strategy because most of my unread books are under my bed, and when they're under your bed, you just forget that they're there. So we were doing a post-Christmas sort out through our house, and obviously I went through all my books under the bed, and I was just like, are the amount of books I found that I'd forgotten that I had. So I've been left with a pile of unread books which didn't fit under the bed. So they're the ones that I'm going to read in the next few months. And I think it's probably better to be targeting the ones under the bed than the ones on my shelf, because I'm more likely to remember what I have if it's on display. So the first one of these is Milkman by Anna Burns, which obviously won the Man Booker last year, I think. And I don't know very much about the plot of this book because I'm not sure that it necessarily has a plot. It's more about the way it's written. And you know, that's just what you get, I think, when you look at Man Booker winners. A lot of the time it's looking at the structure and the literature of the novel and not necessarily about the characters and the plot. But you know, I have it, it's the winner, I'd like to give it a go. I also have From the Ruins of Empire by Pankaj Mishra, which I bought quite recently, and this is a non-fiction telling the history of Asia during sort of the Victorian period, which in the West we normally see as a time of industrialisation and success and colonialisation and all those brilliant things. But it says on the back that by Asians that was experienced as a catastrophe, and he looks at how society's changed in India, Pakistan region and in China, and how we have the sort of situation in Asia that we have today based on those societies in the past, which is good because, you know, my little English education did not cover all of these countries when I was at school. So that sounds really interesting. I also have a book of short stories which was sent to me by Tinder Press, and that's Escape Routes by Naomi Ishiguro. And when I read the blurb of this, I just thought these stories sound so cool and imaginative, so I'll just read you the blurb. It says, a space-obsessed child conjures a vortex in his mother's linen cupboard. A rat catcher, summoned to a decaying royal palace, is plunged into a battle for the throne of a ruined kingdom, and two newlyweds find themselves inhibited by the arrival in their lives of an outsized, watchful, stuffed bear. So it sounds pretty cool. And I found under my bed My Year of Meat by Ruth Ozeki, which I asked for my birthday, I think, years ago, because I hadn't read any Ruth Ozeki, and this is her first book. And then it just went under my bed and never got read. So I believe this is about a woman who is presenting like a cooking show. I want to say in Japan, or it might be US, or it's promoting US meat, but it might be in Japan. And then a Japanese housewife who is watching this show, and it is all about cooking meat. But I just have heard so many good things about Ruth Ozeki's writing, and I just wanted to give her style a go, basically, which is why I asked for it. So it is about time I got round to this one. Another non-fiction I have here is We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer, and this is about the climate crisis, and specifically I think what we can do in terms of our diet and agriculture. That's what it looks like to me. And, you know, I read a book on climate earlier this year called Losing Earth by Nathaniel Rich, which was one of my favourite books that I read last year. And I'm really looking forward to this because I like Jonathan Safran Foer's writing anyway, but also I like when you get a non-fiction which gives you some practical advice as well, because it's all very well to sit here reading about the climate and going, oh, isn't that bad? But I kind of want someone to tell me what to do because, you know, I'm not an expert, and like this, I think this is going to be really enlightening. I hope it's going to be. Maybe I'm putting too much pressure on this book to change my life, but you know, saving the planet begins at breakfast. Another old book I've had for years, and that is A Far Cry from Kensington Gardens by Muriel Spark, and I bought this book because of the cover. And that's all I have to say about that. I've also not read any Muriel Spark before, so I'm really pleased I fished this out from under my bed, because considering I bought this for the cover, I then don't have it on display, which is just so ridiculous of me, so it's high time I read it. Then a book which was lent to me, and I'm so bad at reading books which people lend to me and giving them back, so I need to do that, and that's Once and Forever by Kenji Miyazawa, and this was given to me by my friend Kate, and she said it's short stories all about sort of animals. I think there's a different animal, and they're all kind of a little bit interesting, a little bit perhaps offbeat as short stories go, and a little bit abstract. That's the impression I get. But she really likes Japanese writing, I think, and I'm a bit hit and miss. I'm not against sort of Japanese writing, but I don't really love it. But then have I read enough of it? Probably not. So this is going to be quite an interesting one, especially as it comes on the recommendation of someone else. And then I found this absolute beast under my bed, which is a huge non-fiction called A Classless Society, Britain in the 1990s, which, you know, I don't know whether to laugh or cry because of, you know, politics has just been too much this year, hasn't it? Just too much. But I think this is going to be so interesting to see a bit of build up, a bit of recent history, some social history, to see how we've got to where we are now. It looks like a monster. There's a lot in here, but I really want read it. That came out really weird. I really want to read it. But I really want to understand it. I was sort of trying to think of the words of what to say. Like I just think this is something I really want to try and attack and understand, and it looks like looks pretty comprehensive, doesn't it? And finally, I'll end on a bit of a fun one, which is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, who is the writer of The Night Circus, which I read literally last month, not very long ago. I read it and I quite enjoyed it. Thought it was nice and magical. I enjoyed her writing, and this book is about a young boy, guy, man, a person of the male persuasion who goes into a library and finds this really old book, but within the book the tales seem to be about his own life, so it sounds quite intriguing. And The Night Circus, what I thought was good about that was the world building and how imaginative it was, and the way she constructed all of these different little worlds and ideas. And if this is going to be a similar thing but about a library / a book, then I feel like it's going to be right up my street. I have heard, I'm going to say, some mixed things, but you know, I think it sounds like it would still be an enjoyable read, even if at the end it doesn't necessarily give the payoff. I feel like that's how I felt about The Night Circus, that I enjoyed the process. So I think this will be a good thing to get my teeth into. So that's a bit of a loose plan for my reading from January to March. That's about 10 books, I think, which feels quite doable. I'm going to try and read more this year. Like, you know, like every year, like every day I'm like, oh, I should read more. But I'm really pleased that I've brought out some older books like within this pile, and there's some ones there that I've been meaning to get to for ages and just haven't had the chance to. So yeah, I'm feeling good about this TBR. As always, let me know if you've read any of them, because I'd love to hear your recommendations and what you thought of them, and if there's any that you'd particularly like to have have my reviews on, anything that you'd like me to read first, then let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.